every city in America can learn from Detroit. The remaking of that city has been just nothing short of miraculous. I wish every city could look at that model and say, hey, man, we're going to take some pages out of their book because they're doing an incredible job there.
Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
I'm sorry, John, we were supposed to talk about children's sports for the next half hour. Right?
Yeah, people will love to hear me talking about that.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, John was just in town here in Detroit, in Hockey Town, and you saw your son play. They ended up a little bit on the wrong side of the puck, so to speak. But those things happen, man. It's a learning experience. I saw your son pick up an assist while I was there watching him, so that was cool.
That was nice. You brought him some good luck, and I appreciate you coming. That was very cool of you to do that. Yeah, it was, it was not the best weekend for the team. They're kind of in a struggling position right now, but I kind of say the scale's got a balance here. So at some point you can't keep losing. Or I mean, I know you can, but I'm hoping that they start to tip a little bit. So
Well, like
yeah.
I said before, it's like I never minded when my kids got their asses handed to them, as long as it didn't happen all the time. You got to balance it out a little bit, and there has to be some winning, some losing, some championships, some nail biter. That's a part of sports.
Yeah, he was on a team 2 years ago that went 1-29. So he's very familiar with losing in it. And my wife and I get concerned about that because like you don't want to just think, okay, I'm losing all the time because you got to have some winning. I mean, granted, he has been on some winning teams too, but it's been a while and it can be very demoralizing. Hopefully that's going to turn. Let me point out and say some props to my Detroit friends, Tim McGlinchey and his wife Kirsten, and their kids. They let me stay at their place now twice when I've been to Detroit over the last couple months for hockey,
Yeah.
now for music. And there's just an awesome couple and awesome people, and that's how we got hooked up here through Tim. But I just want to say, and I'm not just brown nosing here. I mean, I've been to Detroit twice in the last couple months just for hanging out, and Detroit. Every city in America can learn from Detroit. The Renaissance and the remaking of that city has been just nothing short of miraculous, and it's really amazing. And every time I'm there, I just get this incredible feeling from it. And I wish every city could look at that model and say, hey, man, we're going to take some pages out of their book because they're doing an incredible job there.
Well, just like a gritty, grindy hockey player, we just keep grinding forward. And it is nice when you walk downtown, and stuff. As a matter of fact, I purposely didn't wear my Detroit hat because I thought you might have had yours on there, and I didn't want
Ah, I should have.
So, but anyways, no, it's great to see you. And of course, while we were watching your son play, we were talking about these three gigs you have coming up. Correct me if I'm wrong, December 13th in Los Angeles at the Whiskey, the 18th of December in St. Charles, Illinois, Arcadia Theater. That might have to be a road trip. And the 20th, New York at the at a Racket. So did I get that right?
You got that all right. Yeah, you should do a road trip. I mean, if you can. I mean, obviously Chicago to Detroit is what, maybe, or vice versa. It's about 4 hours roughly, ballpark. You know better than me. But it's going to be worth it. That's a great venue there. It's just an awesome vibe. We played there twice with Wasp over the last couple years, and both shows were just off the charts. And it's a beautiful theater. Like I said, that area kind of encompasses people from, Wisconsin and obviously Illinois, and even maybe some from Iowa, and you'll get some maybe from Indiana, and obviously all the people from suburban Chicago and stuff. So it's always a great show, and I'm looking forward to doing it. I want to play Detroit, with this thing one day, but as of now, there's no date on the schedule yet, but one day.
Now, for people that don't know what you're doing just songs from your time in Anthrax. Are you gonna do any Armored Saint or just Anthrax songs?
No, no, no. This is just the four records that I made with Anthrax, and it's funny. I'm calling it John Bush, which is a big step for me, and trying to overcome a little bit of a fear of like going, okay, you're doing this yourself. You're not relying on Joey Vera always there and being on my side, and Scott and Charlie, Frankie. This is something I have to do for myself, and it's great. My wife's been like my right hand man and helping me with everything here, right hand woman, should I say? And it's going to be fun. It's like it's something I need to do, kind of like we're talking about, sports and taking that next step and overcoming any kind of apprehensions you made. This is something I needed to do, and I've been talking about it for a long time. And I want to do it. I love those records, and quite frankly, those guys just don't play any material from it, and I understand why. Belladonna years has a lot of songs. Plus, they've made two records since he's been back in the band, and they just finished a third that's coming out soon. So I understand it, but I just didn't want those records to just be eliminated from people's minds, and a lot of people connected with them, especially in the 90s. So, and it was part of my life for like almost 13 years. So, I did a lot of work with them, and I think there's some amazing material. So it'll be fun to go out there and play them live for the first time in a while.
Now, take me back to that time. I'm trying to recall. Did Armored Saint disband and then you joined Anthrax, or was it one of those things where take me back to what caused you joining Anthrax?
Well, they reached out to me. It was after we recorded the Symbol of Salvation record for Armored Saint, which was it was a major accomplishment because we were coming on the heels of being dropped from Christmas Records in the late 80s. And then we found out shortly after that, Dave Pritchard, our guitar player, main guy in the band, was diagnosed with leukemia. And at that time, late 80s, that was not a good thing to get because there was just not a lot of ways to remedy that. You went through a lot of rough times, and he did, and it sucked. And then eventually, the only opportunity he had was to get a bone marrow transplant because he had no siblings. So he ended up doing that, and it's crazy. It's like it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you basically die, and it's that simple. And it was weird, like seeing him be. He was just Dave was like this most really incredible positive dude who just embraced life. He was this awesome guitar player, amazing artist, funny as hell. It was, red, flaming red hair, so he looked super unique. Um, and to see him like go, I'm gonna beat this, I'm gonna beat this, so we're gonna do it, we'll be fine. And that was when we were writing all the songs for Symbol of Salvation. And then eventually he had the opportunity to do the transplant and went in the hospital, and literally within like 2 to 3 weeks he died. And it was just a brutal thing to go through. But as time went on, we said we kind of rallied the troops together. We brought back Phil and Gonzo in from Phil and Jeff Duncan in, who were in the band at different times and both played with Dave at different times. Rallied the band, made that record Symbol of Salvation, which a lot of those songs were written by Dave and during that time. And then we made that record, and it was such a major accomplishment, like this crazy, like huge sigh of relief. And then we went out and we we toured. It was like the early 90s, and it was rough. And we couldn't like really make many inroads in at that point, at 8 years into our career. And lo and behold, that's when the Anthrax guys came. So I felt it was terrible for me to leave the band. It was a crushing thing for me and the band for me to leave on the heels of all the things that we just had done with and making that record. But after a lot of thought, I was like, I have to do this. Like it's the right thing for my life. So then I jumped into Anthrax, and the band kind of dissolved, and then we went on to make the Sound of White Noise record, which is a huge, awesome record in 1993, and really kind of embraced the 90s and for Anthrax and all the metal bands that were making that transition, and that's where my career started with them. And eventually, Saint got back together in 2000, put out another record, and then as time went on, we came back, and that's another part of the story.
Right. But I was thinking about this earlier today. It's like, my radio career started in 1990. And so I've been in it for 35 years. And I can't remember a musical movement in my life where things just went backwards and upside down in that early 1990s. And you're just starting your career. I mean, well, you're 8 years in with Armored Saint. Then you say you join Anthrax. And in 1993, when you put out a record, man, you don't know what's going to happen with that because the record labels are all about Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and stuff. And it's like, that must have been a tough thing as well.
Well, it was a funny time too because Elektra Records signed Motley Crue, and then they had Motley Crue and they re-signed them for a lot of money, and then they signed Anthrax, a lot of money, and both those bands fired their singers,
Yeah.
and so the label must have been going, "What are you guys doing? What?" And I can't speak on behalf of Motley of what they went through and John Corabi, but there was something that they were just probably like, "What are you doing?" And then shortly after that, Elektra cleaned house, and then they got rid of a bunch of people, including Bob Krasnow, who was like the head of the label, who was with Elektra from the beginning, and like brought in the Eagles and brought countless other bands, and they let him go. So, and they let go the A&R guy who signed Anthrax. So at that point, we went from this big high. I joined this band big record deal, a lot of attention on it, even though things were again transitioning into the 90s and all the grunge bands and a lot of bands were just basically being eliminated by what was happening. Um, and then, but we were there, we put out Sound of White Noise and there was a huge buzz on it and a lot of people were real excited. The only video took off. MTV was playing the heck out of it and got a lot of airplay and things were going well. And then within a couple years after that, that's when Electra cleaned house, mid 90s, more transition happening, more bands kind of being eliminated from all the scenes. I mean, like, yeah, the 80s had I mean, the bottom line is the hair metal thing was trendy, obviously, and then on the other side you had the thrash metal scene that was trendy too, you know. So you had these two things, two scenes that were like flourishing, and both of those scenes were affected dramatically by the 90s. Which, hey, man, that's the way it is. It was a new time, new decade. There's incredible bands that came out of the 90s: Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Faith No More. I mean, well, they were more late 80s, but you just on and on. And there's really great bands, and it was just time for a change. And we embraced it in Anthrax. I mean, we were like, it was not like we were looking around at bands going, okay, what are they doing? Let's do that. By any means, we were not doing that. We were just saying, we're ready to kind of take on a new sound a little bit too. We got a new singer, and let's make it sound like we're taking a step forward in this sound in this scene, and we did that, and it was Sound of White Noise was a record that really kind of embraced that whole new change.
Yeah, that was a great record, man. I played tracks off that when it came out, and it was brand new. And I remember it's kind of a weird world that we live in sometimes. I remember the first time I ever played Soundgarden outshined on the radio. I'm like, holy crap, listen to this. And then, ironically enough, I saw their final concert. Right,
Wow. Oh,
right
right. There was at the Fox Theater, right?
at the Fox Theater. But they had this sound which Black Sabbath this kind of sound, but when Nirvana came around, it was like, man, what is this? It's like it
Yeah.
didn't make much sense to me, and all of a sudden it started to blow up all over the place. And I guess you can't pick the time and place when you join Anthrax, but it probably wasn't optimal.
Well, look, I'm super proud of my career and I'm so lucky. Here we are 40 years later and I'm still doing it. We just finished an Armored Saint record. Sounds incredible and I'm super proud of it. And, there's two schools of thought. One is like, okay, well, just never quite got there. My career just never did. I got, even when I joined Anthrax, it was the beginning of the decline of Anthrax. And so that's just reality. I used to have no problems going, we're going to Europe for 6 weeks. Awesome. We're playing this venue. Heck, I played that place last time. But for them, those guys, some of that stuff was hard to swallow because it was like, oh man, we were here, now we're here. And I was like, I was here and now I'm here. And so I was like, awesome. But yeah, I think it was just a tough time. And I've had those kind of moments throughout my whole career, quite frankly. Armored Saint, I had this beginning that we were red hot. Can You Deliver was all over MTV in the early 80s, mid 80s. And then next two records, I don't think we even made a video. So like, I don't know. There's a school of thought of like, never quite got to that level of success. But on the flip side, I say, man, I'm still like making music. Here I am 40 years later. I'm still touring and I'm going to do these three shows and some people care. So like I try to look at the glass, my coffee glass,
Yep.
half way, not half full, but like real full. And don't get me wrong, I complain about stuff and I get annoyed by stuff that falls through the cracks or mistakes that are made, even mistakes I make. But at the end of the day, I keep saying, I'm lucky that I'm still doing it and some people care and I'm still doing it at a pretty high quality. So in my early 60s to be able to do that, I feel very fortunate.
Well, it was funny because when we were talking the other day at the hockey game a couple weeks back, you mentioned something to me like, I'm just a heavy metal singer, and I kind of forgot about that. As we were watching your kid playing hockey, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, this guy's a heavy metal singer. But I was driving to watch my son play hockey last time. We drove by this little house in a little ways from where I live, and I said to my wife, I go, that house is so tiny. You could get across that house in 3 seconds. And it kind of lets you feel like you feel fortunate. That's what you're saying. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? I may not be playing here right now, but some guys are playing down here. And at least but you've been able to do this for 40 years. That's incredible.
Yeah, and tour the world and and again, it's just how you're going to look at it. I don't want to be a bitter old guy and about music. I mean, I'm really proud of all the music I've made. Some better than others, and I have my personal favorites. But at the end of the day, it's when I always laugh because I always say I'll probably get a little more notoriety when I'm dead. And I don't mean that in like a oh woe is me thing. It's more like it's probably the truth, but which I find comical. But not to say that I don't get accolades because I certainly do. And I've been like I said, I'm really grateful. I mean, James Hetfield was praising the Category 7 record. He didn't have to do that. And he was saying this record's awesome. And it's like, this is James Hetfield. So like I've gotten a lot of props, and I just take it all, with a grain of salt, and go out there and just do my gig. And I feel like I was raised in blue collar East LA neighborhood that was predominantly Latino and lower middle class, and my dad was a cement mixer driver, and my mom was a housewife, and they kind of raised me with this, you don't have a lot of money kind of thing, or you just gotta just scratch and claw kind of attitude. And I think I've always carried that on with me. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way you got to be in this business. I guess you got to have tough skin and just keep on moving forward. You
Well,
just
especially if you're in a metal band, maybe
I,
if you're in a pop band, you still probably be tough, but you're a metal band, you got to have that mentality.
yeah, and if you're in a pop band, I guess you can just write songs about how woe is me all the time, right?
Right. Well, there's some metal songs like that too, I guess. But
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Well, listen, it's no secret. I've told you this before. I think you're one of the best metal singers out there and highly underrated. And people should definitely go see when you do all these Anthrax songs coming up.
thinking
Like you
about
said,
it.
Los Angeles Whiskey a Go Go on December 13th to 18th in Arcadia Theater in Illinois, St. Charles, and New York, and on December 20th. So you just mentioned I was going to ask you about it. The Armored Saints. So the new record's done.
It is done, it's mastered and completed. We still are, I don't know what our protocol is here regarding putting, putting out this, telling people what the title is and the song titles. I'm still kind of trying to figure out, can we do that or what's going on with that? But it'll be soon enough. I'll probably announce it in the new year, realistically. But yeah, the record's great. It sounds awesome, and we just kind of keep taking steps up as far as our style and our just our whole trip. And I think that I'm really proud of what Armored Saint has done for the last couple of records. We've made some really killer albums, and Sound of Wine. I mean, excuse me, pardon me. When Hands Down was the second to the last record, and then the last one was Punching the Sky, which is a great album. And this new one, it just kind of keeps building on that. So. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to talk about that, doing interviews, talking about the record, and going out there and playing some shows. We have some stuff booked in Europe for next summer, some festivals, and we're doing some dates with Sabotage, which is going to be really cool. That's a band from our era that we played the Dynamo Festival in 1989. The first time we ever went to Europe with Sabotage on the Hall of the Mountain King record, which was a killer album. And so I'm really excited to go out there and play a couple shows with those guys. And they've always had a huge vibe in Europe. And so, yeah, it's going to be great. We're gonna be busy.
Yeah, I was Googling the thing the other day, and you should probably get one of these, some of these for your kids, where the shirt just says, my dad, and it's like a guy holding a briefcase, like an outline like from the bathroom. And then it says, your dad, and then it says, my dad, and it should be like a guy just singing or something, There you go. You should get that for your kids for Christmas.
Well, my kids did some fun shirts where they made shirts for me, like, some shirt I probably bought at CVS and then you draw on it. And I still wear those shirts and people laugh and they go, oh, that's so cute. And I'm like, yeah, my kid's 18 and 21. And I go, oh, wow. But yeah, I would probably embarrass my kids if I wore something like that at this point, and probably embarrass my wife more than my kids, actually.
No, that's great. So I always wonder about this. It's funny because I guess there's probably a certain timeline and you want to get stuff out there. But yeah, these bands, when they release stuff, they hold it so close to the chest, so close to the vest. I remember talking to Johannes from Avatar, and he couldn't tell me when the record was going to be released. But it was a really cool day, and it turned out to be Halloween, But he couldn't
Ah,
say anything at the time. But it's
perfect.
like, yeah. And so, well, can you tell me how many tracks there are? Maybe flavor of some of the songs, all heavy.
I mean, believe me, I want to talk about it. I'm still kind of confused as to when we're going to put out a release date
All
on
right,
that.
all right, fair enough.
We should do a press release very soon. But I was telling my wife, like, I don't want to do it in the next 2 weeks because I'm focusing all my energy on these shows. So
Yeah.
like that would be actually slightly conflicting me personally. But whatever. When it comes out, it comes out. But yeah, there's like 11 tunes on it, and and which was something we were struggling with because sometimes Armored Saint has a tendency to write songs a little too long, and then our label was saying like, "Come on, man, shorter tunes, shorter tunes," and we're like, "Okay, okay, we're gonna focus on shorter songs and just come in with an a slug in the face and make it brief," but which we did actually. So because we want to, Metal Blade, our label is always great about putting out vinyl on every album, and they just do a great job with the packaging. And so we wanted at one point Joey was saying, well, we might only have a certain amount of songs because of vinyl. I was like, no way. We haven't put out a record in 6 years. Like we cannot put out 9 songs. Our fans will kill us if we do that. Like we need to have all the songs that we wrote that we finished, and we did ended up doing that. So it's going to be at least 11 tunes, and the artwork's great. And I mean, we were supposed to have a date of April 8th or 9th, but I don't know if that's still in play. So I'm probably still saying way more than I'm supposed to. And I
All right.
want to talk about it. Like, believe me, I want to send you cuts of the records so you can listen to them. And I will do that when I can.
All right. I don't want to get you in trouble. You said too much already.
I
Uh,
I always do.
yeah, that's okay though. Hey, you just mentioned a tour with Wasp. Of course, you did the last couple of tours with Wasp, and then there was that famous tour in 1984. You actually brought it up when we were sitting there watching your son play hockey. That was with Wasp and Metallica. Tell me some of your favorite memories about that tour.
Well, that was a great tour. It was actually the beginning of '85. It was Ride the Lightning
Yeah, yeah,
and the first Wasp record, March of the Saint album, and it was amazing. It was a huge buzz on that album. I mean that those records and those bands at that time, and we were actually pretty lucky to be part of that tour, and Metallica was just riding a major high at that point, and so was Wasp, and so we went out there and we were the third band on the bill and did kick some major butt, and it was an awesome tour. We played the Royal Oak Theater, I think, on that
yep,
album in Detroit. We played 3 nights at L'Amour's in Brooklyn, which was like a very happening club back in the day. And we played 3 nights sold out there. All the bands did, and at the last show of the tour, it was just at that point it was Wasp had dropped off. Like once we got to Texas, they kind of dropped off. So it was just us and Metallica. But we played the Hollywood Palladium, the last show of the tour with Metallica, and it was stupid because we were, of course, the support act, the whole thing. But because that was our hometown, somebody had this notion that we would headline and. Going on after Metallica at the Hollywood Palladium in front of like 3,500 people was a very, very bad idea. So, we were like, oh, that was stupid. We should have just kept it as it was. But it was a great tour, and we developed a really great friendship with the Metallica guys at that point. We were both on the same management, Q Prime, at that point, and we have stories when like James threw Joey's leather jacket out the window from a Colorado, like a Denver hotel, like 30 stories. Guy, he's going, that's a cool jacket. Joey had this cool like red lapel leather, studded jacket. And he goes, let me see it. And he got it and he threw it out the window. And then it was just had Joey's jacket floating down in the snow. And then James pulled the fire alarm. So like all the people had to, it was like probably late 2 in the morning and everybody had to leave and their pajamas go out into the cold. And they didn't get caught for it. That was a great story.
that's
Yeah, a lot-
hysterical.
yeah, it was pretty funny. A lot of fun times on that tour, and
I
like I
mean,
said, Metallica. We just played the Sonic Temple show, one of many bands that played in Metallica, the one in Columbus, and Metallica was there. And those guys, we've always been friends through the years, but we never really like, you know. I mean, Lars and myself, we were friends. We were pretty close for a while. Then, things get distant. It's not a big deal. Once you see each other, it's like, but it was weird because we went on at 3 that day. Of course, we're one of the first bands, and they were going on at like 9 because they were the headliner. And somebody was like, "Do you think they'll come?" And I was like, "No, why? I wouldn't come. They're sleeping." And lo and behold, we turn around like right before we're going on stage, and there's James and Lars and Trujillo, and we're like, "What?" And they watched our whole set, and it was pretty cool for them to do that, and they didn't have to do that. And then James actually gave us props during his set, saying so Armored Saint and Corn, and they were killer. And I was like, "Wow!" I mean, it was really nice. So we still always have that relationship with them, even though sometimes we won't speak for a long time, which is it's not a big deal, but. It was awesome. And let me say that, on this tour that we did with Wasp, the dates were great. We did two legs with them. We were supposed to only do the first one, but we ended up doing the second one with them because of circumstances, and we were happy to do that. And Blackie treated us awesome, and it was a great tour, and we had a lot of fun. And all the guys in his band are incredible, Achilles and Duda and Doug, and they're an amazing band. And we had some great shows. We sold a ton of merch, and it was probably one of the best tours Armored Saints done in like 25, 30 years, if not more. So it was great.
Now I saw both of them here. You did play the Royal Oak
We
Theater
did.
one
Yeah.
time, and then Harpo's.
Yeah. The famous Harpos.
Yeah, the time before that, and then that tour you're talking about with Metallica and Wasp, though the thing that you even brought this up when we were watching your son play hockey. That's where you guys got snowed in Buffalo.
We did. We got snowed in Buffalo. It was a major blizzard. It was the Super Bowl Sunday. I remember distinctly. I can't tell you what game it was, but it was the Niners and Dolphins because it was in Marino and Montana. I
Yeah.
remember that. And we were watching the game, and then we saw the snow coming. We're like, wow, this is going to be not good. This is going to be bad. And yet still a ton of people came to the show. I was at the Salty Dog, which is a
Yeah.
club there in Buffalo, and the show was great. And then the next day it was just like we can't get out of town. We were there for about 2 to 3 days of stranded in Buffalo. And finally we got a police escort out of town to I think go to Scranton, Pennsylvania was I think finally the next show that we were able to play. And yeah, I remember being in the hotel, and we were trying to go through the kitchen and run, just try to find some food that we could eat
Mm.
because everything was shut down. And Chris Holmes, I remember cracking up, and he was being a maniac, and he trying to find food, and just a lot of laughs, and all three bands cracking up about being stranded here in this hotel. I think it was a pretty nice hotel, like a Hilton or something in Buffalo, but we literally like food was something we couldn't find. We couldn't obviously we couldn't order anything, and I remember going through the kitchens and like the cupboards and just trying to find something to eat. So great memory.
And the life of a rock star. And like you said, you don't talk to the Metallica guys all the time, but you guys will always have that.
Oh, it's great. We always have this history, and Lars was always a huge supporter of the band back in even early days, and up to he was kind of like almost co-managing with his girlfriend at the time for the Symbol of Salvation record. He's always been a huge supporter of that record, and look, I mean, the Metallica guys, they're the kings. It's the end of the story. That's all you can say about them. And I always say that what the things they did, they always took a lot of chances, and I always think that's really commendable. Making a record with Lou Reed, the Load records, whatever, cutting their hair, just always taking chances. Always the things that they do, all the stuff they've done live. They never really just played it safe and said, we're just going to do this and that. We're going to stay consistent to that. They took chances, and sometimes when you do that, you don't always hit the bullseye, but as an artist, I think that's how you really grow, and I really commend them for that.
You got these dates coming up, like I said, where you're singing the Anthrax songs that part of your catalog there with Anthrax. And I know when you were here, we'll wrap this up just by saying, are you ready to go with these shows? Because you told me that you were singing like you rehearsed like 20 songs that day or something. I saw you or something you said,
Yeah,
right?
I've been doing it because we're also playing the Category 7. It's like so the Category 7 guys are basically the band who's playing the music. This was the idea that we came up with, which was a good one. We're piggybacking on one another a little bit, if you will. Like I said, those guys are incredible players. If I was starting a band from scratch, I would reach out to them because they're incredible musicians. The only drag is Jack Gibson can't do it because he had a schedule conflict. And so I had to get another bass player, which was easy because I asked Joey Vera, who's my blood brother in Armored Saint, and so it worked out well. So, but yeah, it's a lot of preparation. So we're gonna do like 5 songs, 6 songs of Category 7s, and then we're gonna leave the stage for like 20, 30 minutes, and then we're gonna come back and play the songs from Anthrax. So what I've been rehearsing is okay, in which I've never done this. I was saying I'm like sing 5 or 6 songs, and I take a 30-minute break and check out like box scores or something, and read the news, and then all of a sudden 30 minutes later I start singing again, which is something I was kind of weary about because as a singer and drummers too, like you're warm, and the last thing you want to do is get cold. So I mean, I guess hockey players and athletes have half times and period breaks, right? But you still want to like stretch a little bit. Like you don't want
Yeah.
to get completely cold. And as a singer, it's I was wondering about that how it's going to be, but it's been fine actually. I'm still kind of warm, and so I'm really excited about it. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of work. That's why I only said, "Oh, I'll do 3 shows, and we'll reevaluate after that and see how it plays out." It's a lot of work, but the set is great. This really, I think it's flowing really well, and I can't wait to get in the rehearsal with those guys next week and start playing these tunes live. It's going to be killer.
Yeah, the older I get, the like if I play hockey or something and there's like a a break and intermission, it's the worst. It's you just want to keep going.
It is. It's bad. And Jason Bittner, the drummer, he's like really adamant about it, going, dude, there cannot be a long break. And I was like, yeah, no problem. We could go back on 15, 20 minutes later if you want. It's the same guys. There's
Yeah.
no real, it's like we might change a backdrop. Other than that, like there's nothing, there's no gear to move. There's nothing to do. So we could just go back on whenever you want. So, I mean, we want a little break just to create a little tension, I think,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
will be fun. I'm gonna have to change my shirt because I start sweating after song one. But yeah, I think that'll be fun. But yeah, we don't want some big break in between bands.
Yeah. Well, listen, good luck with these shows, man. Los Angeles and New York are kind of out of the question. We'll see about Illinois. I don't know. I think I got to work that week. I'm off the week after,
You're
but
you're still you're feeling a little ill. You might be coming down with something.
yeah, that might be too. I'll have to see if I can remember that. I don't know why this thing keeps going. Do you see that? It's moving in. Anyways, my camera
Well,
gave me a hard time.
thanks for coming out to my son's game. That was really cool of you to do that. And it was great to get to know you. And please, let's keep in touch, and thanks for all the love and at the station and all the support through the years. Really appreciate it. And thanks.